Good day to one and all, and welcome to day two of this two-day online national conference for students on changing contexts and shaping roles, new perspectives on Indian art, literature, and aesthetics. Today, we will begin with our first plenary session for the day on herbal dyeing, a new paradigm in sustainable color, presented by Namrata Manod, founder of Biome Conscious Fashion and co-founder of Color Ashram. Namrata Manod, the founder of Biome Conscious Fashion and co-founder of Color Ashram Foundation, is a spirited entrepreneur of natural dyes, an artist, designer, and part-time thespian. Biome is an exclusive natural dye and organic cotton Indian homegrown brand leading the slow and sustainable fashion movement. Along with virgin fashion and gift options, they offer upcycling services of old clothes by re-dyeing and printing them under the campaign Biome Resurrect. Their garments are 100% eco-friendly, herbally dyed, and biocompostable, as they believe that fashion can be in harmony with nature. Color Ashram is a safe haven, a natural dye innovation studio, consulting, and training center where you learn to use colors that are made from plants and minerals, colors that they call herbal dyes, which are used to help people transition to a natural way of coloring fabrics, papers, walls, and more. We welcome Ms. Namrata Manod, and I hand over this session to her.
Okay, so I want to begin by a story. This is the story of King Midas. I'm assuming that many of you have heard it, but I'm going to repeat it in a very short form. So he was very fond of, riches, and he thought that gold is a wonderful thing, and he thought that what if he could turn everything into gold? And he got this boon till he found out that everything his desire was that whatever he touches should turn into gold. And he happened to touch his food, it turned into gold. He happened to touch his daughter, she turned into gold. So now he could not eat anything, and all his beloved ones were also turned into gold. Why I want to tell you the story is because that is how we are in the world today. So we have actually started putting poison in the land, in the water, in the air by our consumeristic activities, and the mass industrial revolution that has happened, agricultural revolution that has happened, without understanding that this poison is coming back to us. What are we going to eat? How are we going to breathe? What kind of water are we going to get is a big question. Maybe it's not already. It's an alarming thing because the activists and the people who work to look after the environment and climate change, they are very worried. I think some scientists have said that we have less than 500 years as a human species to survive the kind of degradation that we have begun to do in the environment. So which brings me to this question that how much more to be focused on. So consumption is essential and it's great, but when it is going to become a reason for degrading our resources, and it's going to be done at a level where we are only thinking about producing and producing without thinking what we are doing to our resources, we're going to run out very soon. So that is one reason why today, and COVID is the best example to show us also that how we all saw in COVID times of how we're getting affected by unhealthy, things that we're doing. And most importantly, we saw that when human activities stop, even for a day, a few days, and in a few months, what happens to the air, what happens in the water, what happens in the soil, there were major differences. Is that working in harmony with nature is now not a choice or a utopian need anymore. It's a essential need. That is why to integrate the being in harmony with nature while you're working, whether you're an artist, whether you are a designer, whether you are a company who's producing something, an industry, whatever you are. I think integrating harmony with nature has become a very, very essential need for everyone. That is why we are doing what we are doing, and this whole session is about addressing that one point. Now, before I begin with, you know, what is sustainability and what is that color sustainability that we are offering to you, I want to just go over the things to understand what is nature. Let us first understand nature, because here we are to talk and to learn about natural dyes, right? So natural dyes, by the term, it means that the colors which are going to come from nature. So what is nature basically? So nature is something which does not produce waste. I hope that everybody will agree with me here. Because in nature there's a cyclical process of everything. So whatever is produced grows, it dies, and then the microorganisms eat and digest it, and it becomes soil again, which can again reproduce. So nothing is a waste in nature. In this cycle process, what humans have done is we have put a stop on it. We have kind of, interrupted this cycle by introducing things like plastics, introducing things that are in such mutated forms that microorganisms do not consume plastic. They do not break down plastic. And the whole cycle of nature is not able to function in the way when a thing like plastic or any synthetic compound which is not biodegradable comes in. To say that plastics are biodegradable is saying that they will degrade in 500 years, 1000 years. But that's not the ideal way to biodegrade. It should be biodegrading with the microorganisms. That's why, just to think about that everything on this planet is natural. There's a theory which everyone says that, everything is natural, everything is chemical, so what is the problem? That doesn't make sense, because biodegradability essentially means that it should decompose within a certain time quickly, and it should become soil again and not toxic. One other thing is, the important word here is toxic. So everything can break down, which is also fine. Maybe plastics will also break down someday. Maybe chemical dyes and clothes will also break down. But what are they going to release in the soil and water? What are they releasing right now are toxins. By toxins, I mean toxins are also from this planet. So what are we thinking about? Everything is natural in that way. But what I mean to say is that nature has kept a certain balance in the water, soil, and air, which is very healthy for humans to survive. That's why we have flourished. However, if we increase certain levels of elements in this, we change the pH of the soil, water. That is inducing toxicity, because what the acid or the alkali which are used in the dyeing process and which is released in the atmosphere, in the rivers, in the soil, in the air, are also natural. They're coming from natural source, but their concentration are really, really harmful for every life form, not just for humans. Marine life, very harmful for it. So practically no life form can actually survive in the toxic environment which is created because of the effluent or the waste which comes out of textile industries or dyeing industries or any such processes. Iron and steel is one of the most polluting industries as well. So that is what is the problem with that. So nature has kept a certain balance in the water, soil, air, which is nature. Okay, that's it's unique. It's interactive. So what nature shows how time passes. We can see aging everywhere. You keep an apple outside, in some days it'll ferment, it'll oxidize, and it'll become whatever. It'll degrade. You see humans. We have tried to use anti-aging techniques, but nobody can stop aging, right? So nature is very interactive. It with time, it ages, it dies, and it also interacts in the sense that if you throw something which is of a different pH to any natural product, it will show that what you have thrown at it. So it is not a dead, it is living object. It interacts just like us. And nature is not perfect, so you can never perfect a natural technique. Whenever you work with natural things, if anybody of you has actually done natural dyeing or anything, you would see that to get a particular result every time will not be possible. Every time you might get some different results. So let's remember all these attributes. So if nature is all of this, then how can natural dyes be away from these things? So natural dyes automatically have all these components built in it. So when we learn natural dyes as students, when we want to use natural dyes in our work, let us remember that it will not be perfect. It may be standardized to a certain extent only. There will always be a chance it will be interactive. There will all, but also it's not going to create waste, which means you are using and throwing it after use, it will be digested very well. So when you know these things and you keep these principles in mind, you will not expect the same things that you expect from a chemical product, okay, from a synthetic product. Next point that I want to focus on is sustainability as such. So the reason why you or anyone who is looking at natural dyes is looking for a reason, and I'm sure your reason must be sustainability. This whole world is now telling everyone that okay, let's be sustainable, let's be sustainable. So in this world of where we need to be sustainable, there are various parts. Let's say it's food, clothing, shelter. I think there's one more part now, which is entertainment and art and say expression. All these things come. In all of these activities, we need to be sustainable. We can't just eat organic food and say rest of the things I don't care if it's chemical. So when we think about all these four aspects, there is one component which is inherent in all of them, and that is color. In clothes you need color. Even you have organic clothes, what color are you going to apply? That will decide whether you're going to have a product natural or not. If you're using organic cotton and then using chemical color on it, it doesn't make sense because it is again very polluting. So color in clothes, color in buildings and walls and the wall paints, color in our food, what we use in the packaging, and say in art, in entertainment, everywhere wherever color is used, it is possible to use natural color. And what we are talking about today is that option and that possibility to look that can we use natural color instead of synthetic colors in all these activities. Okay, so by the way, by which I mean that just growing organic clothes, organic food, or doing earth architecture is not enough. You know, there are a lot of earth architects who are doing brilliant architecture with wood and mud, but when the concept of color comes in, what is it that we're using? Chemical colors. When you're doing art forms, you know, then also you're using chemical colors. So that's, this is a place where we need to see whether it is possible to use natural color. Now the answer to this is of course yes, and the reason is very simple. Because guess what? Till how many years back did we start using chemical colors? This industry which looks like it has been always been there, the chemical dyes. This industry is only 100 years old, which means before 100 years we actually had only natural colors. And within 100 years, we have done a damage of worth 500 years. We've removed natural colors, and the people who used to know about natural color and the techniques and the knowledge and the skill is vanishing from all industries, because something which is not used becomes redundant. Even a muscle in a body or a part of a body which is not in use becomes redundant. So this is what is happening to the to the field of natural dyes. So the good news is that it was always being done, and there are still a lot of resources and knowledge available. If you look up old texts in Ayurveda, there are recipes of natural dyes there. Many people have documented recipes also. Now the thing is that all this has been done. Then why is it not not possible to just dig up and start working with it? is that because when something is not in practice and it's always only remained in theory, there are these lot of missing gaps and links which are there, by which you cannot complete the process. So there are a lot of technicalities, and natural dyeing in olden times was not very simple. There was a series of processes. It was like, every dyeing process would be 15-20 days, process, which today nobody really knows how to do. I doubt how many people actually follow the old process which was done. And the second thing is that the economically it's not viable to dye something, take 15 days to dye a fabric or a color or whatever. So the economical viability is not possible if we follow the traditional process only. How can we take the old recipes, take the concept of taking out colors from nature, keep that intact, but then innovate the process, innovate it such that we can use it in today's time, when our time, money, and energy, these three things are limited. Time is of great value now. If you could do something in 10 days and if you could do something in 1 hour, it makes sense to go for the 1 hour thing, because there's a lot of money connected to time now. Energy, fuel is expensive. Natural dyeing was always done in forests and near forests, so there were the resources were there and they burned firewood to do it. Now, if you're sitting in a city and you want to do this burn LPG fuel or what fuel, it is super expensive. Secondly, the problem of storing so much of material, because the percentage of color in natural materials is actually very less. It's almost 5%. 5% of color is there in a ingredient of from nature. So which means you need a huge pile of sauce to take out very little color to be able to dye. And what are we thinking about? We are thinking that this industries where we are making this number of clothes, we want to dye them naturally. How will you do it with that little bit of dye, which and with huge materials that it needs? So warehousing would be a very big problem also if you started to do it commercially. I'm going to talk about natural dyes in terms of commercially, because if we are going to only think of it in terms of a beautiful handicraft which was being done and can be done as a hobby in a small handkerchief, this is not going to solve the problem of environment. The environment issue can only be solved if we put it in the space where there is huge impact. Industries are use tons and tons of water, and they are polluting tons and tons of water. So if we cannot use it in an industry, then naturalized knowledge is almost like it's poetry. It's not going to be impacting our environment, or it's not going to solve the problem of environmental degradation. So hence we have to have commercial viability. We need to have it, the option of scalable has to be there. So as far as I know, natural dyeing as an industry is not really heard of at all. In India, in fact, so my partner, my co-founder at Color Ashram, Arun, is one of the pioneers who has actually done industrial application of natural dyes. Look up and find out for yourself how many industries are there which can dye fabrics industrially, thousands of meters. You will not find many examples. There are still many people who make natural dyes, who extract colors, but nobody is doing the dyeing part of it. So the need to bring it into industry means that the process has to be scalable, it has to be efficient, it has to be certified. So in uh, in all the processes which are natural, the one big issue is there that they are not certified. Take it homeopathy, take it Ayurvedic medicine, all of these. Allopathy is chemical, synthetic, whatever it is, but at least it's standardized. So when you're doing something on a big scale and you want to do it all over the world, you need to have a little standard process, some certified process. Because otherwise, what you'll be mixing in what, there's no guarantee. So in natural dyeing, this is also one thing which is missing. There is no standard or a certification or any body which is there to certify that something is natural. These are all craft industries, so nobody really bothers about those marks. We still have a handloom mark and handicraft mark, all that is there, but in natural dyes there is still this thing is missing. So One good question to ask when you approach someone who says that I'm doing natural dyes is ask them, can you give this to me in writing? If they cannot give you in writing, which means that they are mixing something or whatever, or which you might not know, which is not actually natural, or it may be harmful or whatever. So that is one need has to be there, that whoever is using should be able to say that I take the the responsibility to say that it is natural. So now I'm going to look at all the things which are beautiful about natural dyes. Let's just recap that once. They are beautiful shades. They are very healing to the eyes. Actually, if you look at chemical colors and you look at natural colors are extremely, extremely healing to the eye. And whoever sees and wears, they have a change of aura in them. In fact, we had done an aura test with these colors and we found that the aura was pure white. Okay, so that it has a very healing effect. Third thing is that natural dyes do not create waste. They do not pollute water, air or soil. All three parts of nature are not polluted. Fourthly, there's the health of the worker who uses these dyes. Today we all wear clothes with chemical dyes, and then when we think about the health of the person who's making or dyeing these clothes or using them, they are very, very potential cancer patients actually, especially colors like black, and all these are extremely poisonous colors to make. So if health of the worker is even a consideration in your work, if that code of ethics is coming very strongly now, then this makes a lot of sense. And the fifth thing is that the person who wears it, we have heard, because in chemical dyes there are all sorts of chemical dyes, from cheap to, how does a cloth become very cheap? Because they probably don't even use cotton, they're using polyester, they're using chemical dyes, but these are also harmful for skin. Did we know that our skin is the biggest open organ in our body? If you try this, that you close your nose and you try to breathe, you will still be able to breathe for some time. Why? Because you're breathing from your skin. But if you close your skin pores, you will actually die. So our skin is the biggest, largest exposed open organ. And what you're putting on it, it affects, it goes inside as well. Be it cosmetics, be it clothes. If you're using badly done chemical dyed clothing or cheap dyes, they are going to be hazardous on skin. I mean, skin issues due to dyes is not a very uncommon thing. If you open internet and Google, there are loads of examples where people have skin issues with, related to toxic clothing, toxic coloring. So that is another issue with the thing. So natural dyes, all this is very good about. Now the challenges is still the same. We like it. We are very happy that this is so good for for everybody, for environment. Now the economics becomes the biggest part. So is it scalable? Is it certified? Is it standardized? There's one more thing. So I said that nature is not perfect, which means that the content of color in one, say, pomegranate peel is an excellent source of natural dye. Okay, so the content of color in one pomegranate to the another pomegranate will be different. That is a kind of uniqueness which is there in nature. So how do you standardize something in which the pigment content keeps changing? That is a big challenge. But if we have to work with it professionally, if we have to open a brand, we are a designer, we are a company, we cannot have not standardized process. So this is one issue which will need to be solved as well. And the application process. So if the application process is going to take 10 days to dye some fabrics, it will hardly be used by industries. It will be a handicraft industry only, which is great. Handicraft is a great sector. All handcraft processes make our life rich and better. But even in handicraft process, if you could use natural dyes, wouldn't it be really great? And if industries could use it, then of course the environment on the whole, it can really have a good positive impact on the environment. How do we answer all these issues? This is where actually what dyes we are using at Color Ashram comes in. We are using certified, standardized, scalable, and easy to apply dyes. These dyes have been they are called true tone dyes. Okay. I can share the link of the website. It's called truetoneinc.com. And the name True Tone was chosen for a reason, because Pantone is the shade card for chemical colors, right? So we wanted to have a parallel competitive shade card of natural dyes, so we called it True Tone. So these dyes, when I say are natural, I mean that they are made from plants and minerals only. We are not using any chemicals in this dyes process, or we do not ask you to use any chemical to facilitate the dyeing with this. So all the auxiliary products are also eco-friendly, by which I mean in the dye itself there are two parts which are important for any dye process. One is the color source, one is the fixer or the mordant. So the dye and mordant both in our dyes is natural. They are a combination of herbs and minerals. Okay, but then dyeing or coloring is not just about colors. There's also a pre-process, which is, bleaching, making it ready for dye, then it's washing afterwards, and all of these process can be very polluting. So this for example, washing detergents that we use are extremely polluting to the environment. If you just look up any article on internet, you'll find that. So how do we make all this process eco-friendly is what we have addressed as well. So we are using some natural eco enzymes for the pre-process, eco wash for the post-process, and then we have for like making a paste or thickening a paste for printing, we're using natural gum from gum arabic from the acacia tree. We're not using synthetic gum. So what I mean by this is that all the auxiliaries and the main product are eco-friendly, and that's what is the composition of our dyes. Now I'm going to just show you every product to kind of just have a look. So this is a herbal dye powder. Okay, it comes in a packet like this. Of course, I can't show you right now, but you can look it up on our Instagram or YouTube how the colors look like. So this herbal dye powder is one product that we have. Then we have paste. There is a printing paste with which you can do block printing, and you can do painting on fabric with it. That means that paint is okay to use on washable products. So you could do block printing, screen printing, as well as painting on fabric that you need to wash. Then there is a painting paste, which is excellent for artists and people who paint on paper, or you want to paint on a canvas which you're not going to wash. So for that we have a painting paste. Then we have something called eco detergent, which is a detergent which is made from rita or soap nuts. Okay, and there are some other things also added to it to make it an industrial product. Then we have eco enzyme, which is for ready for dye process. So in textiles, whenever you want to paint or print or dye, you need to have the fabric ready for dye. You need to remove all the starch and chemicals which were used when the fabric was woven. And for that, usually a lot of harmful chemicals are used for the process. We are using this eco-friendly thing. And this is the eco gum, or which is the natural gum to make a paste. Or you want to make a paste. Then we have some kits that we make, which is available on website. This is a block printing kit. Similarly, we have an indigo kit, and we have many other kits which are DIY kits, which people can actually buy and start using it by themselves on a hobby level. But this hobby level is not enough for you to start using it in application for your work, which I'm talking about a small scale work. Say if you wanted to dye your clothes at home and you wanted to do a small production, a hand production, then you need a proper workshop training, which is what Color Ashram gives, how to use this color. So we walk you through the way or process how to use it, and then if you are keen, then you can actually use it like a launch pad to apply it in your production. The production level trainings are very different. They have to be they happen over a longer period of time, and the processes are different from home scale processes. Okay, so this is what we offer. Now, I think one big question that all of you would have is that if I use this process, how much of money I'm going to spend more than say chemical counterpart. or say chemical colors. If you are an artist, you'll ask me like if I'm using that color. So my answer is that our dyes are very, very price competitive compared to the chemical dyes. They might be slightly more expensive than chemical dyes because in chemical dyes there are all kinds of dyes, right? There are those cheaper dyes and there are expensive dyes. I'm comparing ourselves with the best quality chemical dyes. Our prices, if you are doing at a production level, it can be as competitive as chemical dyes. It's not going to be two, three, 10 times the price of normal dyes. That is one thing. I think the dye part is not so expensive. The expensive part is your investment in training, your time in training, and your money in the beginning of training. Because this language is so different, it's not like chemical dyes. Now, we have used chemical colors all our lives. To switch to a natural color, you need some time, you need some practice. It is almost like cooking. You cannot learn cooking without practicing it, without having your own instincts to how much of sugar, salt to add, how to cook it. Like ultimately everybody has their own way of cooking things better. So we are here to teach you the technique and tell you, but we need people to practice and invest time to learn this. Also, this is a very, very mindful process. It is not a mindless process like synthetic processes. Like you can set in chemical dyes, I think you can set the color, everything on a computer and it will do the job. In this, manual intervention is mandatory. Even though you can use the same machines for dyeing what you would use for chemical, but you need to be aware of changes because it is so interactive. Like a small change in pH of the water, or say of the object that you're dyeing in. If it is a metal which will react with the color might change. If the weather is really full of whatever moisture, it may impact your dyeing. So what I'm trying to say is that if the fabric had some residues of a particular chemical, say it had optical white on it, and when your color is used, so optical white chemical will react with the natural dye to give some other color. What I'm saying is it is not as simple as chemical dye, which is like a coating of color on the fabric or whatever, and it doesn't really react so much with the fabric and other things. It is like a layer of fevicol on top. But natural dyes is actually very interactive, so you have to be very mindful of how you're doing, what you're doing, and you need to be a problem solver throughout of its use. The good thing is it is full of surprises. So when you're doing it, you wonderful accidents happen and you find out how to do some new things. You discover things along the way. So it is pretty much a scientific process, but it's absolutely an art in terms of developing the skill to do it and loving the process, being with it. Can you do art with your mind only? Like a job, you can't do it. You need to enjoy it. So if you're not going to enjoy the process, natural dye will not give you good results. So I would say that it's a combination of art and science, and it is excellent because as a person, if you are choosing sustainable dyes, I'm hoping that you are also wanting to change your lifestyle. You're saying that sustainable is good and you have a different mindset. So it helps you to completely actually transform as a person, not just in your work, in your food, in your clothes, but also in your working environment and your products and the way you look at things. So it gives a very holistic and wholesome experience to you as a person when you are working with natural dyes. You definitely have very good sleep. You feel really
Thank you, Ms. Sneha. Requesting all the participants and attendees to post all questions in the chat box. We have our first question by Christina D. Ma'am, in our fast-paced life and industries, how long do you think it would take people to switch to natural dyed fabrics? The change would cost a lot in monetary terms and time, which is good for the people. But how does one convince the whole masses of people who are reliant on cheap, fast fashion? Over to you,
Sure.
ma'am Namrata.
So, yeah. So the thing is that there is no problem if there is a demand, then the supply cost is not, it can be leveraged. So we are talking about whether there is a demand from the people or not. That is a good question because someone has to create awareness about these things. And if the public is ready, then all entrepreneurs will be ready to put in time, money, energy, everything to take benefit of the demand. So right now, I would say that because of these times that we are living in, the pandemic, the awareness towards sustainability has gone up very high, right? But yet, this is a good time to actually put your money in a sustainable business because this looks like it's going to be the way businesses have to be in the very near future. So I guess that if you're a brand who's starting right now, I would say you need to have a combination of creating awareness and then pitching in your product. So this space is very virgin, I would say right now. So it's a new thing. So there's no one who's not many examples to follow. So that part always remains as it is. Some people will be newcomers who will be investing more money on creating this awareness, and others who will follow will benefit out of it. But the people who are first timers and newcomers, they will have uh, an impact on the memory of the public because they are the ones who came and started talking about it sooner than others. So you have to judge for yourself of what makes sense to you. What's the next question,
Thank you,
Anjali?
ma'am. We
Yeah.
have another question which asks, many people
Mm-hmm.
worry about color running when they wash their clothes. What are some things
Sure.
that need to be looked at while dealing with naturally dyed clothes?
Yes, this is a very, very important and the most fearful thing about natural dyes that it bleeds colors. So, sure, there is no natural dyed fabric which will not bleed colors. But the thing is that even chemical dyes bleed colors. If you all have blacks and reds, and you must have seen so many times that the colors bleed out of them as well. But somehow the highlight is on natural dyed bleeding. Secondly, if the chemical dyes bleed, it is poisonous and toxic. It is not the good news. It's very, very harmful for the skin. Natural dye bleeding is not at all harmful for the skin or your other clothes as well. So, in this, I would say that you have to go with the brand who are industrially certifying to certain wash parameters. So, for our brand, my partner brand True Tone Inc., I can say that our wash fastness is around 3 or 4, which means that this is very good by industrial standards. So it's acceptable. As far as the fading goes, there's also the part of the consumer to be aware and to use detergents which are mild. You cannot be using very alkaline detergents on this. So that is one part. The second thing is that the bleeding is only making the color a shade lighter. So the thing is that you would probably have a light pink instead of a dark pink, or a light red instead of a dark red, and you have to be okay with it. In natural eyes, as we spoke about, the main things are that with time it will age and change. So those have to be just like we said that Levi's faded jeans became so cool, right? Now, fading, if you see, or the faded effect of jeans, if that could become cool, torn jeans could become an fashion icon, then, why not beautiful fading of natural dyes be accepted and seen and promoted in the same spirit? Yeah. But taking care in the washing is on part of the consumer. Yeah. Then they will last longer. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Uh, Participants, we have time for one more question. So please go ahead and post your questions on the chat box.
What I'd like to say is also that, there are no black and white areas in this. There is a lot of context. There's a lot of layering of the truth of the, question that you ask. So don't look for very straight answers. It's almost like using common sense and seeing what are you choosing. And then if you go deeper into it, there is no problem. At least I find that there's no problem. The problem is only how you look at it, how you present it, and that is somewhere where you have to use creativity actually. Nothing is a problem in natural dye, I would say.
We have another question. Can natural dyes also be used for jewelry?
Jewelry, as in what kind of jewelry are you talking about? Like, I'm wearing this fabric jewelry right now. I don't know if you're talking about these. So wherever you use color, you can use it. But if you're using color in a process where there's a lot of heat applied, then the natural colors will of course change. They won't show that color which is there. So I mean, if you're talking about metal jewelry, we haven't explored that yet. I don't know about it, but fabric jewelry, yes. Ceramic jewelry, yes. Wooden jewelry or any natural material jewelry, yes, you can apply this color. It can be applied on wood, on ceramics, on pottery, all those things.
We have one more question from Merlin D'Souza. Ma'am, how
Yes.
can the masses move towards sustainability when not all people are economically stable or have the leeway to invest in ethical or sustainable fashion?
Sure, that's a very valid question. Because of the low demand right now and the low supply as well, the products in natural light field are not very cheap and they're not yet available for the masses. But here's the thing. Right now, when we are used to buying so easily, you can go to an H&M and buy a top which is really cheap and you don't have to think twice about it. What I would say is instead of buying 2 or 3 tops, why not buy one top which will be natural dye? So if you reduce your quantity of consumption, I think surely you can embrace natural dye fashion. And other thing is that look for more brands because some brands really make it a niche product and they have a very high value product. But there are many brands which are grassroots level who are doing natural dye. Even our brand, for example, we do industrial production of fabrics. True Tone Ink, you can look up. So then our fabrics are actually very reasonable. It's almost comparable to the cotton that you get outside. So you have to look for brands which have not hiked the prices so much. And yeah, reduce your consumption and include it. Oh, we also have another thing that if you learn dyeing yourself, which is very easy with our processes, then you can actually dye your own light or white or clothes which are there with these dyes. So instead of buying a product, you have your own textile, you just apply the dyes on it. That can also be done.
Thank you, ma'am. With that, we now come to the end of our question and answer round. I would like to place on record our very, very sincere gratitude to Ma'am Namrata Manod for this wonderfully enriching session. And ma'am, there are a few more questions on the chat box. So if it's
Yeah.
possible, we would be very grateful if you could address them over there.
Sure. Let's take
Okay.
the questions. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hmm.
Participants, please note we will begin with session 3 shortly. Welcome to session 3 of this 2-day online conference for students. I formally welcome our judges, Ms. Jyoti Pisipati, Sri Vivek Menezes, and Dr. Svetlana Fernandez once again, and thank each one of you for gracing us with your presence again. We will have 3 paper presentations for today. Participants, please note that the presentations of all presenters have been shared with the judges prior to the session to avoid any technical encumbrances. We will now begin with our first paper presentation for the day. The title of this paper is Five Great Indian Poems An Unknown Perspective by Kalyani Prakash from Government College for Women, Thiruvananthapuram.
Obeyed. You wake up and slip quietly out of the room, shutting the door behind you. Eyes closed, I clasp your pillow in hopes of smelling out the faintest trace of your body's secret perfume. Never before have I held you more closely than I hold you now in your absence. But you hug the morning paper to your chest in the kitchen and wash it down with a cup of tea. Breasts. Breasts are bubbles rising from marshlands. As they gently swelled and blossomed, a due season at time's edge, I watched over them in amazement, never speaking to anyone else. They are with me always, singing of quiet sorrow, of love, of ecstasy. They have never forgotten to enthuse the seedbeds of all my changing seasons. At times of penance, they struggle and strain, and at the thrust and pull of lust, like the proud ascent of music, they stand erect. From the press of an embrace, they distill love. From the shock of childbirth, milk flowing from blood, like two teardrops which cannot be wiped away. When love is thwarted, they fill and they overflow. Champa. Champa grew up among 7 brothers. She was as flexible as the bamboo reed. Snakily, she disturbed her father's sleep, became the black shadow of his dreams. Champa grew up among 7 brothers. She was pounded with the paddy and thrown away as garbage with the husk. A parasitic creeper grew at that spot. Champa grew up among 7 thorny bushes. She returned home once more. Champa, who grew up among 7 brothers, was found hanging from the roof of the house. She was buried in the web of water hyacinths. A blue lotus appeared there. Champa returned home once again to be offered to the gods. When she wilted, she was crushed and burned. Her ashes were scattered over the whole village. It rained heavily at night. The next day, outside each door, among the wild Nagfani weeds, alone and unafraid, Champa was seen smiling. Conversation piece. My Portuguese bred colleague picked up a Shivalingam one day and said, "Is this an ashtray?" "No," said the salesman. "This is our God." How to go to the Tao temple. Don't lock the door. Go lightly like the leaf in the breeze along the dawn's valley. If you are too fair, cover yourself with ash. If too clever, go half asleep. That which is fast will tire fast. Be slow, slow as stillness. Be formless like water. Lie low. Don't even try to go up. Don't go round the deity. Nothingness has no directions, no front, no back. Don't call it by name. Its name has no name, no offerings. Empty pots are easier to carry than full ones. No prayers, too. Desires have no place here. Speak silently, if speak you must, like the rock speaking to the trees and leaves to flowers. Silence is the sweetest of voices, and nothingness has the fairest of colors. Let none see you coming, and none going. Cross the threshold, shrunken like one crossing a river in winter. You have only a moment here, like the melting snow. No pride, you are not even formed. No anger, not even dust is at your command. No sorrow, it doesn't alter anything. Renounce greatness. There is no other way to be great. Don't ever use your hands. They are contemplating not love but violence. Let the fish lie in its water and the fruit on its bow. The soft one shall survive the hard, like the tongue that survives the teeth. Only the one who does nothing can do everything. Go, The unmade idol awaits you.
Thank you, Kalyani. I would now like the judges to please ask Kalyani questions. Attendees, y'all may also post all questions on the chat box.
Hi, Kalyani. That was a really, absolutely beautiful rendition of those poems. Um, those poems are actually very, strong. They have very strong message, um, and your rendition has done justice to all of them. My question is, poetry is a neglected genre of literature today, right? I don't know a lot of people who actually enjoy poetry as much as they did in the yesteryears. But like all the other genres, poetry also has the power to influence culturally, morally, and emotionally influence the society. Okay, how can we bring back that significance, importance, or the glory of poetry back to mainstream literature? Okay, how do you think we can do that?
Well, according to me, yes, as you said, ma'am, poetry is fast disappearing from our world. The beauty of it is completely ignored. And it's mostly because I think not just poetry, but any piece of writing, be it poetry, short stories, or a novel, anything is completely ignored in these days because people are fast moving towards technology. They want visual arts more than verbal art. So the only way to bring it back into our world as of now is to encourage reading amongst our youngsters, and limit our use of technology, go back to our roots, and search for the magic in words again, as I would always say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am Jyoti. Kalyani, please note that there will be a few more questions posted to the chat box, so I would like to request you to please answer the questions there itself.
Yes.
We now move on to the second paper presentation for today. The title of this paper is A Timeless Classic, the Composite of Mouth-Watering Flavors and Aromatic Spices of Incredible India. The presenters are Jaden Noel Paez and Wilma Zita Fernandez from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa.
Good morning, bon dia, shubh prabha, and dear boli these to you, respected members of the jury and dear audience. India, a country so diverse and multilinguistic, vernacular, and very, very rich in history, and ironically best in food. Today, we, Wilma Fernandez and myself, Jaden Pace, are presenting on food aesthetics, and the title of our paper is A Timeless Classic, the composite of mouth-watering flavors and aromatic spices of incredible India.
Let us begin. To do so, let's jump back only to some 4,000 years, where the first civilizations introduced cultivation as part of their food processes. Our second slide speaks about the past and therefore is titled Past Forward. Here we speak about the different ancient Indus civilizations like the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro civilization and the Vedas or Vedic civilizations. As seen in this slide, in these civilizations the important part of the diet was milk and its products like curd, butter and ghee. People used to eat the meat of birds, wild animals like boar, antelopes and buffalo and fish. On ceremonial occasions, the meat of animals such as sheep, goat, and buffalo were also feasted upon. Indian treasures. Respected jury, if I may, in yesteryears, what do you feel was considered more precious than any other thing? If you guessed it as spices, then you're absolutely right. Spices, as can be seen on our third slide, is known as the Indian treasure mainly because of its use in food and medicine. Spices and aromatics are the very heart of Indian cooking. They have been used since ancient times and were mentioned in the ancient Hindu scriptures called the Vedas, ancient Egyptian papyruses, and the Old Testament. Although it was not until the Roman conquests that Western countries discovered their culinary possibilities, spices have always been believed to have healing and magical qualities. The word spice comes from the Latin word species, meaning a commodity of value and distinction. During their long and fascinating history, spices have often been more valuable than gold or precious stones, and the trade of spices has been an extraordinarily influential factor in history. For example, trading between Portugal and India when Vasco da Gama discovered Goa. Molecular gastronomy, the scientific discipline concerned with the physical and chemical transformations that occur during cooking. The name is sometimes mistakenly given to the application of scientific knowledge to the creation of new dishes and culinary techniques. Molecular gastronomy has been around the culinary world for many years now. It may be fading its colors, but there are still some great aspects we can adapt while developing modern Indian recipes. Molecular gastronomy opens doors for many doubts and solutions we faced in our culinary journey. Imagine a liquid nitrogen frozen rasgulla, warm jelly of tomato shorba, mango lassi full of airy feeling, and much more, as long as your creativity can spark. While the food industry never ceased to make use of technology to improvise, chefs feel that it is the rapidly growing number of health conscious consumers that has resulted in a visible decrease in the number of takers for molecular cuisine that uses chemical transformation of ingredients to create the necessary visual effects. And hence, we come to the Indian cuisine. Hope we haven't got your mouth watering, respected jury. Coming to the fifth slide. Taste में हिंदुस्तान सबसे best. Let me try and explain this. Indian food is different from the rest of the world, not only in taste, but also in cooking methods. It reflects a perfect blend of various cultures and ages. Just like Indian culture, food in India has also been influenced by various civilizations, which have contributed their share in its overall development and the present form.
Food in North India, to begin with, in Kashmir, mostly all the dishes are prepared around the main course of rice found abundantly in the beautiful valley. But on the other hand, states like Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh show high consumptions of chapatis and baked breads like tandoori, rumali, and naan as staple food. However, in the northern region, impact of Mughalai food is quite obvious. In western India, The desert cuisine is famous for its unique taste and varieties of food. Rajasthan and Gujarat are the states that represent the desert flavor of Indian food. Here, an immense variety of dals and achars, pickles, preserves are used that simply substitute the relative lack of fresh vegetables in these areas. In eastern India, the Bengali and Assamese styles of cooking are noticeable. The staple food of Bengalis is the yummy combination of rice and fish. A special way of preparing the delicacy known as hilsa is by wrapping it in a pumpkin leaf and then cooking it. Finally, in southern India, the states make great use of spices, fish, and coconuts, as most of them have coastal kitchens. To distinguish Tamil food, the use of tamarind is frequently made in order to impart sourness to the dishes. Fun fact: if you think spicy is all that there is to Indian food, think again. According to food theory, all Indian food is made up of six primary tastes: sweet, salty, sour, pungent, bitter, and astringent. Today, Indian cuisine has moved beyond the realms of fusion gourmet. Modern Indian cuisine is making rapid strides. Close your eyes and imagine Indian cuisine: sinful deserts laden in oversized kadais, rich lentils simmered with spices served with a dollop of cream and butter, sprigs of cilantro added as an afterthought, flat breads stacked high and glazed with butter. Yum! The portions are magnanimous, and the curries are accompanied by the usual naan, kulcha, or jeera rice. But a small, growing breed of enterprising chefs and restaurants are weaning the Indian palate away from fusion food to the delights of modern Indian cuisine. The 80s and the early 90s saw the introduction of Indian cuisine to the Western palate. Indian flatbreads, curry, and tandoori soon became the buzzwords for restaurants abroad serving Indian cuisine. Soon, there were global adaptations moderating the spice, lessening the fiery flavors, and taming them to suit the Western food aficionados. Evidently, India has various civilizations and rulers like the British, French, and of course the first among all, the Portuguese, to thank for the various cuisines in the menu. A Cozinha Goesa, the Goan cuisine. In Goa, that is further down towards south, one can notice Portuguese influence in the cooking style as well as in the dishes. Some of the major dishes of this region are the sweet and sour vindaloo, duck bafadu, sorpatel, and egg moli. The rice, coconut milk, and fish, along with local spices, are the basic ingredients of Goan cuisine. Seafood such as pomfret, prawns, crabs, lobsters, mussels, ladyfish, oysters, and clams are used to make soups, pickles, and curries. Let us conclude. Yes, that was a pun. Pretty Grace Sungrita, an Instagram food blogger, has said Indian food touches your soul before it touches your taste buds. There is heaven in every bite. And with that, we end our presentation. Thank you, respected jury, and everyone else present.
Thank you, Jaden and Wilma. I now open the floor for any questions from the judges.
Hi. Is there anybody else taking the question?
I could ask.
Or I can. Oh, okay. Otherwise, I'll post mine in the chat box.
Um, so my question to you, first of all, lovely presentation, really mouth-watering. Okay, so my question to you is that with the predominant fast food culture that is growing in today's world, not just in India but throughout the world, do you think our traditional food culture, that you showed us the history and how food has been changing and developing. Do you think this fast food culture is affecting our traditional food, cooking food with that big spices? Do you think it's affecting this culture of food? What is your opinion on it?
Well, thank you, ma'am, for your question. Uh, yes, fast food is evident everywhere in the world today because it's, as the word suggests, it's fast. You need it quickly, and with our fast-paced lives, it's the easiest. But there are people also who prefer traditional food because yes, it is healthier, and there are a lot of restaurants and now with the pandemic, you're seeing a lot of homemade cooking happening. So people love their traditional foods, and we see a lot of people, of course not now, but traveling to different countries to try out the traditional foods as much as possible. So in my opinion, uh, as much as there is a growth in fast food, there's also a growth in traditional food with a little, like, they're trying to balance it out, as what I can see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Jaden and Vilma. We will now move on to the next presentation. Judges, please note, and also the attendees, please note that you can post questions in the chat box and Jaden and Vilma will answer them for you.
When canvases are no longer a need and any open space turns out to be a canvas, it's the birth of street art. Good day everyone. I'm Kesia Prabhudasai, co-authoring with Vedangi Parsekar and Nikita Kole of St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa. We will be presenting a paper on the topic Street Art in Goa. What is street art? Street art is one of the most hybrid forms of artistic expression in our modern world. It is a Western form of art which India has adopted. Unofficial and independent visual art created in public location for public visibility. Street art in India. India has given street art Indian taste, which makes it exclusively Indian while retaining the universality of the art form. Street art in Goa. Goa has become a new hotspot for street artists. Street art from Start Goa project and vegan movement are also to be seen on a great extent.
Street arts found in the cities of Goa include works by international artists like Tona, Miles Toland, OXD, Guido van Hulten, together with international artists, Indian artists like Daku, Do and Khatra, Parag Sonagre, Ayaz Basran, Kafil, and Shabu have turned the streets of Goa into a giant canvas. Serendipity Arts Festival. Serendipity Arts Festival, in short SAF, is one of the largest multidisciplinary arts initiatives in South Asian region. The emergence of literature and arts festival, Serendipity, has played a crucial role in turning Goan streets into canvases. The festival has various layers of programming in the form of educational initiatives, workshops, special projects, and institutional engagements. It spans the visual performing and culinary arts whilst exploring genres of films, live arts, literature, and fashion. Beautification of Goa by Start Goa Project. Street art is something you are not expecting to see, and when you discover it, it creates a larger impact. Through these artworks, we nurture talents and contemporary artists, says Hanif Qureshi, the curator of Start Goa project. Start India Foundation is an organization formed on the principle of art for all and works on art projects in public spaces. The foundation aims to make art accessible to a wider audience by taking it out on the conventional gallery space, embedding it within the cities, making art truly democratic and for everyone. In association with Asian Paints, it aimed to look at pension from individual perspectives of the different creative personalities and their combined effect. The landscape of pension is very different from rest of the cities of India. Start Goa has various projects which delved into the character of the city instead of just painting walls. We have been very careful with the kind of content we are putting in public spaces. We hope to bring the art alive every year with the Serendipity Arts Festival, says Hanif Qureshi. Start India Foundation's intention was to beckon Goa beyond its beaches and to invite people to immerse themselves in installation and murals in and around Pancham. The idea is to open spaces to dialogues, conversations, and culture creation through the lens of the city with muralists, graphic designers, painters, visual artists, and painters. The Cutout Project. Start India's first sub-project was Cutout Project. Inspired by the larger-than-life cutout poster culture in Tamil Nadu and neighboring states, Start envisioned a series of portraits of local Goan people spread across Goa. The Murals Project. A mural is a painting applied directly to a wall, usually in a public space. Indian as well as international muralists were in Goa to paint and explore their version of Goa through murals. The Proverb Project. Proverbs are words of wisdom passed through generations. Mindful of the increasing communication gap between the young and the old generation, Start had invited sign painting artists to work on a series of proverbs from Goa, translating them into vibrant art pieces to engage the audience. Guerrilla projections. The objective was to travel with portable machinery to map video movies, artworks, text, graffiti, etc. on idle building facades as a sort of projection bombing. Guerrilla projections are extremely effective in the way in which they reach and surprise the audience. Democratization of street art. By origin, graffiti and certain forms of street art are typically acts of vandalism, that is, made without permission on government or public property. They are very importantly assertions of identity or calls for attention to various issues. Graffiti is uniquely positioned to hold a mirror to classical or dominant ideas of aesthetic and decorum. The purpose of street art is that it's a powerful tool for inspiring, energizing, generating morale, and raising spirits of the public. The relevance of street art is to improve the general look of a place, improving the area from a financial aspect and creating more jobs. The difference that street art has brought in today's world is evolving continuously, thereby impacting artists, the art market, democratizing the art buyer market, making art accessible and approachable to all. The prospect of street art is that we all benefit from further opportunities to interact with more art in all its various forms. Lastly, the hunger out there in the community for more public creative expression might take street art to different levels over the next few years and in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters. I would now like to request the judges to please pose any questions that they might have for this presentation. Attendees, y'all may go ahead and please post any questions pertaining to these presentations in the chat box. A request to Jaden and Vilma to please note that there is a question from your judge, Ma'am Jyoti, on the chat box as well. Please address it there.
First of all, I would like to say that was a really good presentation. I like the visuals that you have added and explained the purpose of street art. Now, earlier, when I questioned to you, said earlier paintings, art. or something that could be seen only in exhibitions, or you had to buy paintings to actually enjoy them, or go for exhibitions to enjoy them. With street art being now in public, where anyone and everyone can see, does that change or impact exhibitions, painting exhibitions, or does that impact painters who actually sell their paintings? What's your opinion?
Ma'am, the idea of street art is to democratize the art form. And street arts are accessible to all in terms of visibility and in terms of spreading opinions. I don't think that it affects painters and exhibitions in a way, because street art is out on the streets, and the painters and exhibitions, like painters paint their paintings, which then are bought by people to like decorate their houses. So yeah, in some way it may affect, but I don't think that it affects in on a larger on a large platform. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for the answer.
Thank you, Dr. Svetlana. Requesting these presenters to please note that any further questions will be posted on the chat box. There is already one question from an attendee, so I would like to request you all to please go ahead and answer these questions there. I would like to place on record our sincere gratitude to the judges for the day, Ms. Jyoti Pasipati, Sri Vivek Menezes, and Dr. Svetlana Fernandez, for being with us and gracing us with their invaluable time and expertise over the course of the last 2 days. Judges, I would like to request you all to kindly join us at the valedictory ceremony to give us your thoughts and insights then. With that, we come to the end of session 3. The next item for the day is a panel discussion on art and aesthetics. The discussants are Mr. Sherwin Vianney Suarez, Ms. Natasha Martha Fernandez, Mr. Aftab Ladji, Mr. Siddesh Shinde, and Ms. Clanifa Almeida. We will begin shortly. A very good day to all, and welcome to this panel discussion on art and aesthetics. The Indian subcontinent has a tradition of aesthetics dating back to time immemorial. Aestheticism continues to be seen in the varied forms, styles, subject matter, and mediums of art. These continually changing aesthetic traditions that burst forth from India continue to capture the attention and admiration of the connoisseur and laity alike. The primary focus of this panel discussion will be identifying, disseminating, and exploring various avenues of aesthetics in the Indian artistic process. My name is Anjali Mascarenhas, and I will be your moderator for this panel discussion. We have five eminent panelists in our midst today. Ms. Natasha Fernandez is a first year biotechnology student at Dhempe College of Arts and Science. Our second speaker for the day is Mr. Sherwin. Suarez, who is also a first year biotechnology student.
Our third speaker, Ms. Clanifa Almeida, is a recent graduate from Dhempe College of Arts and Science. Our fourth panelist is Mr. Aftab Ladji, who is a TY BSc Maths student. And our final panelist for the day is Mr. Siddesh Shinde, who is a second year BA student. With that, I now hand over the reins of this session to our first speaker for the day. Natasha, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Today I will be presenting on food aesthetics in India. In Arabic, we have a phrase which goes like this: Takul aliyan kabal alf. This means that the eyes eat before the mouth. It is mostly used in the Middle East and a lot of the North African countries. With this expression, I would like to delve into the topic of my presentation, which is food aesthetics in India. But first, let me give you a background into what food aesthetics essentially is. Food aesthetics is essentially the practice of giving food an attractive and a pleasant appearance. It's a way that culinary artists reveal hidden dimensions behind ingredients and dishes. These are dimensions that previous cooks often overlooked. The idea is not merely to create a fantastic concoction or to add a new flavor note to the dish, but rather it is to capture the essence of something that has hitherto gone unnoticed, and to impress upon the diner that there is something here to be explored and understood. These edible artworks reveal some new treasure that solicits the diner's attention and demands the kind of studied focus that we give to things like visual arts or even music. I would like to give you a bit of history behind food aesthetics. Food aesthetics was first introduced by a celebrity chef in the 1700s by the name Chef Marie Antoine Carême. He worked in Napoleon's kitchen and he had an interest in architecture. Because of this interest in architecture, a lot of his dishes took the shape of frame monuments and even natural occurrences like waterfalls. With this being said, we in India have not given particular importance to food aesthetics as such, but it's only after globalization that we too have also started to realize the importance of the beauty of plating. Now, I would like to give you all an introduction into Indian food. There is no specific list of foods that come under Indian cuisine, and this is because our culture and our cuisine has been shaped by an 8,000-year-old history. We've had so many tribes and people coming from all over the world settling into India, and because of this reason, we've had so much of influence in our Indian cuisine. So Indian cuisine is essentially a culmination of an enormous number of local and regional ingredients and methods of preparation. The aesthetic ways of knowing food are written in various ancient texts such as the Kama Sutras and the Dharma Shastras. At this time, food consumption was inclined towards asceticism and self-control. In traditional Ayurvedic and Unani medical systems, food consumption was not only linked to overall feelings of well-being and balance, but to personality disorders and traits as well. Now I'd like all of you to think about this. Think about all the common North Indian dishes that we've had. Think about things like chicken tandoori or hara bara kebab or even a naan, for instance. All these things would not be present without the use of a tandoor, which is a clay oven. This tandoor has been brought over by the Mughals into India. And because of this reason, a lot of the North Indian dishes that we have today are shaped by the Mughals. And in fact, there's a whole set of cooking that is dedicated to the use of this tandoor. And this is known as tandoori cooking. The British and the Portuguese too have influenced a lot of the Indian foods that we have today. So they brought in a lot of new world vegetables such as potatoes, tomatoes, and chilies, which are now key ingredients in a lot of Indian cooking. And we too have given them a lot of spices so that they could enhance the flavor of their stews and meats. So now let's take the Goan cuisine as an example. So we have dishes like chicken kafrial, sorpatel, and even vindaloo. All these dishes were basically brought over by the Portuguese into Goa from the rest of the colonies that they had. And because of this reason, we've inculcated a lot of these recipes into our culture, and we've added our own mix of spices and local ingredients into it. And because of this reason, all these dishes are now part of the mainstream Goan cuisine that we see today. With this being said, it's only after independence and after exploring the haute cuisine of various other cultures that we too have started to emphasize the importance of food aesthetic. Food aesthetic in general, and particularly in India, stresses on attention to detail. Care needs to be taken to ensure that the right color and contrast and the right textures are included in the dish. The garnish is also equally important and quintessential to the completion of the dish. It's also salient to include the right glassware with the appropriate size and color, and the height of the plate does matter too. The right placement of ingredients is also essential. To be honest, all of us at home do subconsciously practice food asceticism. What I mean by this is that whenever we have guests coming over, or whenever, even in our day-to-day cooking, for instance, we always make sure that we have the right plates, the right glassware, and even the right cutlery. And we also make sure that the food that we have on the table is presentable, colorful, and at the same time tasty. So again, it's not that we don't practice food asceticism, but as a matter of fact, we are just doing it on a smaller scale. The importance of food aesthetics is mainly driven by various social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It was and is particularly driven by Instagram, and this is because Instagram is a picture-based platform. So a lot of Indian chefs get inspired by the ideas shared on these platforms and are motivated to implement the same things in their kitchens too. So to conclude, I would like to say that in our present times, due to the improvements in technology and the ever-increasing use of social media platforms, that Indians too have started to realize the importance of the beauty of plating of food. And slowly but surely, it will be practiced in many more restaurants other than the luxurious 5-star and Michelin star restaurants. With this, I would like to pose a question to ponder upon. Are we changing our culture just to fit into the so-called international standards? Or is it that we are glorifying and propagating our culture by introducing the concept of food aesthetics in India? With this, I would like to end my presentation on food aesthetics. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Natasha, for that wonderful presentation. I now would like to call upon our second speaker for the day, Mr. Sherwin Suarez. Sherwin, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So today I'll be speaking on Indian paintings, their history, and their importance. Indian culture is steeped in its tradition and deep-rooted history, and Indian art forms are a reflection of the culture. Bursts of color and vivid mythological descriptions dominate the canvas. The Indian styles of paintings have unique origins and history behind them, which make them even more interesting. Here are 4 Indian art styles which you should know about. Madhubani paintings, Bihar. These paintings find their origins and derive the name from a village called Madhubani in Bihar. These paintings were first painted by the artists hailing from this village. Style of these paintings. The Madhubani paintings are done using fingers, twigs, matchsticks, and nibs, etc. Natural dyes and colors were used, though today the use of synthetic colors is not uncommon. The paintings are distinctly different from other paintings, though. Their usage of geometric designs, floral and colorful motifs that fill the entire background, leaving no empty space, and characteristic facial forms with fish-shaped eyes and pointed noses. Today, Madhubani art is used not only as an adorable paint in our homes or offices, but the designs and patterns, bags, cushion cases, mouse pads, crockery, and more so. The designs have also been used as and by fashion designers as borders on different garments. Next you've got is Varli art, Maharashtra. Varli art is a 400-year-old tribal art form from paintings in this movement. Initially painted on the walls of the houses, Varli art has gained immense popularity and is painted on home furnishings, decor, and murals. The traditions of Varli painting in Maharashtra are among the finest examples of folk-style painting. These rudimentary wall paintings use a set of basic geometric shapes, a circle, triangle, and a square. These shapes are symbolic of different elements of nature. The circle and the triangle come from the observation of nature. The circle represents the sun and the moon, while the triangle is derived from the mountains and the pointed trees. In contrast, the square appears to be a human invention indicating a sacred enclosure or a piece of land. Next we've got is Kalamkari paintings, Andhra Pradesh. Kalamkari literally means pen art. Kalamkari paintings are either hand painted or block painted on cotton fabric. This art form flourished under the rule of the Golconda Sultanate. It was first developed and evolved at Machilipatnam in Andhra Pradesh, but its popularity soon spread to other states. Kalamkari specifically depicts epics such as Ramayana or Mahabharata. However, these are recent applications of the Kalamkari technique to depict Buddha and Buddhist art forms. In recent times, many aesthetically good figures such as musical instruments, small animals, flowers, Buddha, and a few Hindu symbols like swastika are also introduced to Kalamkari. In modern times, traditional techniques have been replaced by digital techniques. In this era, new techniques are introduced, and the digital files of Kalamkari have been introduced widely over the regions of India and Iran. Nowadays in India, silk, mulmul, cotton, and synthetic saris are also sold with kalamkari print. Printing is a much easier task than the traditional kalamkari work. Kalamkari dupattas and blouse pieces are popular among Indian women. Next god is Gond painting, Madhya Pradesh. Gond painting are a native form from Madhya Pradesh. Art form from Madhya Pradesh. Gond art is characterized mostly by animals and birds. Gone paintings are an expression of religious sentiments and everyday life depictions. Gond art has become a so predominant that the government of India has stepped in to preserve the art form for future generations also. Style. Gone paintings can be best described as online work. The artist makes sure to draw the inner as well as outer lines with as much care as possible so that the perfection of the lines has an immediate effect on the viewer. Lines are used in such a way that it conveys a sense of movement in its image. Global influences of Gond style paintings. As a result of the efforts by the Indian government to promote and showcase the beauty of tribal art, Gond paintings have now become quite popular. There have been exhibitions of Gond paintings in many parts of the world, especially in Japan. Gond paintings can sell for anywhere between 2,000 to 2.5 lakhs. Modern innovations. Modern Gond paintings aren't painted on walls and floors and are instead painted on canvases. This makes sure that it's not only much easier to transport, carry, and hang on a wall, but the use of the canvas helps the paintings to stand out much more than it would if it was on the wall. Due to the scarcity of natural colors in the current age, Gond artists have started to use poster colors. This, combined with the use of canvas, has made Gone paintings much more vivid than its traditional counterparts and has added a bit more flair and bloom to it. So, to basically sum it all up, Indian art in the form of paintings is very important to our culture. It not only connects us to our past roots, but also acts as a window to see how people lived back then, their stories, their tales, and the way they depict themselves, like kings, queens, and even battles. And it also shows us how far we've come as a country and a nation together. And with that, we can close my presentation. Yes, ma'am. So back to you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Sherwin. We would now like to move on to our third speaker for the day, Ms. Clanifa Almeida. Over to you, Clanifa.
Thank you, ma'am. I will be speaking on Goan theatre. art, and traditions. Now, every state in India has its own speciality. Like, for instance, Assam, we know that it is famous for its tea plantation. Similarly, Goa is identified with its vibrant form of performing art, and that is theatre. Now, for those of you who are unaware of what theatre actually is, it is simply a Goan form of theatre, or in other words, to quote unquote, Konkani theatre is the stage of Goa. Now, the best part of theatre is that it is not only famous in Goa itself, it has reached countries across the globe, and all the credit here goes to our Goan diaspora. Now, when it comes to shaping our society, or shaping the roles of our own selves in society, theatre has played a major role here. Simply because theatre is considered to be a didactic form of theatre. Now, if you dive into the thematic concerns of theatre, there are theatres that are based on religions, political satires, comedy, youth-based, and all of this sort. So there is, the society which is mirrored in theatre, which directly, has an impact on our behavior. So basically, every theatre ends with a strong moral to reflect upon. Now, as we know that times are changing and we are adapting too much into a modern society, there are a lot of OTT platforms that are entering the world of entertainment. Due to this, theatre is facing a lot of challenges. Now, uh, according to me, there should always be a balance, in everything in life. Now, what do I mean by this is, let's take Indian web series into consideration, like, for instance, love stories or FOMO short sprees. We know that they are, very good, very well written plots. But if you observe them closely, they tend to have more of a, negative impact on the younger generation. Whereas if you look at theatre, it has kind of a positive side. Now, with this, I'm not stating that web series are bad and all that stuff. Neither am I stating that theatres are always positive. Of course, they have their pros and cons. But say suppose there is a person who is binge watching, on the web series that is the love stories. Tomorrow he will find, he will desire that sexual pleasure in reality, and he might also do it in the wrong way. So this is when theatre actually comes into picture. Didactic platforms like theatre come into picture. And this is the exact balance that I'm talking about. So what, to conclude, I would pose a question. What are we, the younger generation especially, what are we doing to preserve these traditional forms of art in our states or in our country? Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Klanifa. We will now move on to our next speaker for today, Mr. Aftab Ladji. Over to you, Aftab.
Hello friends, my name is Aftab Ladji and I'm going to take you to the beautiful journey of Indian fashion, heaven of design. India is the most diverse nation in the entire world. With each state, the language changes. Similarly, with each state, the fashion changes. India is a powerhouse of fashion. You go to the north, south, east, or west. Fashion and clothing varies depending upon ethnicity, geography, and cultural tradition. That's why I call India a heaven of design. When clothes are divided on the basis of gender, then we will see women wearing the beautiful saris, Banani sari, silk saris, Mekhla chador, kashti, salwar kameez, kurta, and other lot of garments. On the other side, we will see men up to date with kurta pajamas, dhoti, lungis, sherwani, and many more other garments. Hand embroidery is the most prominent part of Indian textiles. I will give you a glimpse of the gold. Chikankari, famous in the state of Uttar Pradesh, especially in Lucknow, the magnificent style of embroidery melts down any fashionista's mind and heart. You can see on your screens these beautiful images of chikankari work on this blue cloth, all in the pink color. It's just so beautiful. Kashida is a popular Kashmiri embroidery encouraged by the beautiful surroundings of the valley. You can see in the second image particularly how beautiful does this embroidery looks on the kurta, how magnificent it is. Similarly, we have Kanta native to Bengal and Punjab's pride Fulkari. There are a countless number of embroidery styles, but if I go and name one, then they're going to be I will do one style. But one information we have that is understand, and for you to understand, the India is hub design. If you look at today's formal working sector, there's a lack of diversity in terms of clothes and designs, where shirts, pants, and blazers dominate. Such a formal shirt works if you put up in that beautiful how beautiful the rich cultural heritage and executive craft has not only left the Indians amazed, but created a tsunami in the international market, finding their way into the collections of celebrated designers across the world, such as Alexander McQueen, Marc Jacobs, Dior, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and many more. Many international artists want to wear Indian pieces, want to wear Indian garments. For that reason, there is a huge demand for Indian market. For example, a lot of international designers have collaborated with Indian-based embroidery firm situated in Mumbai named Chanakya. Ranveer Singh has always been in the spotlight for his extravagant fashion. But typically, when he wears Indian traditional clothes, he's been named with names, such as people call him is wearing a woman's skirt. But on the ground of reality, Indian men have been known for ages to wear skirts in the form of lungi or dhoti, or for that matter, you can look into Gujarat, where Gujarati people wear this beautiful mirror work ghagra choli. Isn't that sound strange? So, I want to leave a question in the mind of all the panelists over here. That in the scenario, who is the fool? Is Ranveer Singh fool to follow the rich Indian culture and tradition of outfits and garments and designs? Or are we fool enough of not knowing our own roots? Thank you so much. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am, Anjali.
Oh, thank you for that, Aftab. And now we move on to our last panelist for the day, Mr. Siddhesh Shinde. Over to you, Siddhesh.
We have just listened to presentation tracing the journey of traditional aesthetics. My presentation for today is going to primarily focus on the art of illustration in the advertising sector, keeping in mind that ads are consumed by almost all sections of society. Illustrations were used and are still used in posters, flyers, magazines, books, teaching materials, animations, video games, and films. In picture books, often the illustrations are more important than the words and help children who are new to reading understand the story. Indian illustrators have come up with a lot of picture books like Panchatantra, My Mother's Sari, and some historical or some might say mythological books like Ramayana and Mahabharata have been explained with illustrations for better understanding for the children. Illustrations started appearing in advertisements and newspapers in the early 1900s. By then, more newspapers had popped up in the country and the formalization of advertising as an industry have begun. Advertisements in the early days were usually sketched out and were very minimal in nature. Most of them usually had two segments, separating the illustration from text. This trend continued until the 1920s, which saw more and more ads going beyond the bare minimum. Illustrators started becoming more detailed in their drawing, often using images of gods to catch the reader's attention and also pander to the British fascination with Indian culture. The 1930s was like a big update for Indian illustrators. Now they were able to add colors to their illustrations, which made the moneyed company hire them to illustrate their products in the flyer and newspapers. The British contribution. The British opened art schools in India to train artists in European style of art, who were then employed in British advertising agencies. The job of an illustration artist first emerged during this time since the British extensively wanted to document India. Many famous Indian illustrators emerged from these schools but had an excessive European influence in their work. Seeking an alternative to European influenced art in Imperial India, Gajendranath aimed at reviving the inherited wealth of Indian art practices while using modern printmaking techniques. Rabindranath Tagore furthered the cause by establishing Kala Bhavan in 1919. Thus began the era of Indian fine art revival. More artists could now have their work mass-produced as prints and spread across the continent. From there on, the students went and learned not only modern reproduction techniques but also nurtured their own Indian indigenous art practices, and Indian fine art illustrators slowly reached to prominence. The 1940s. The 40s saw illustrators getting more political in nature, as the struggle for independence was in full swing at that time, with anti-British and anti-foreign sentiments running high amongst the Indian populace. For instance, the illustration by the Indian Independence League from 1942 shows British soldiers beating up Indian women and asking them to crawl along on the ground. The copy reads, "Avenge the British outrage." Post-independence. Post-independence was the first time Indians understood what real freedom felt like. Newspapers no longer had to worry about censorship and British, which also let the illustrators spread their wings. Hence, illustrations in ads started depicting people who looked more Indian than British. For instance, this illustrated advertisement of Hercules Cycle shows a milkman with his large containers of milk traveling on his bicycle. The same, if marketed on the British, probably would have a man or a soldier in a suit. Also, post-independence, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, our then Prime Minister, pushed the introduction of design in nation building. With growing demands in communication and broadcast, various fields of illustrations emerged, from architecture to industrial design, filmmaking to books. Skilled illustrators started thriving in India, and with them, Indian indigenous art also slowly started gaining back its prominence. We saw the Palaji girl show up during the 60s, who was first illustrated by Maganlal Daya of Everest Creatives. His beautiful illustration is still used on the packaging. A little girl with a bowl haircut and brown eyes. If you want the real butter, you got to choose Amul butter. Amul is a company who brought in the famous Amul girl in the 60s, who still remains the face of Amul in newspapers and other advertisements. Although Amul being a huge company, all the Amul print ads to this day are made by hand and then scanned. Illustrations on social media. Some Indian comic artists have their own defined design language, and some of them share their experience and tips regarding the comic content creation industry for beginners as well. They create content which is relatable for all and add puns, humor, or political opinions to their fancy illustrations which make them more attractive. Some of the illustration pages to follow on Instagram are Alicia Souza. Most of her illustrations are monochrome illustrations. Bakar Max. His content involves serious political and historically relevant topics. Appu Pencil. He uses his comic strips to voice his political opinions. Tall Girl Tunes. Problems faced by tall girls in daily life. And there are many more. As Darwin said in his theory, if you don't change, you die. So now the illustrators have changed to digital methods and graphic art, from just newspapers and flyers to social media and digital marketing as well. Well, I have a friend who is an artist, and I would like to end my discussion with one of her favorite quotes. A picture is a poem without words. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation, Siddhesh. I would like to commend each of the panelists for their wonderfully informative presentations, tracing the journey of aesthetics in art in its traditional forms to its transition into the modern era. I would now like to open the floor for discussion. Are there any questions for the panelists?
Ma'am, I've got a question for Aftab actually. Aftab, so you discussed about fashion. So, in your opinion, tell me, how does masculinity, recent Indian masculinity, affect fashion? Like you mentioned, Ranveer Singh. So, would it be a problem now compared to back then? Because I think in olden India, especially now in Kerala, people still wear lungis. But now, because recent Western trends, people wear jeans, people don't wear lungis anymore. So that's affected how we look at Indian style of dressing compared to how it was back then. So, in your opinion, just tell me, would it be better to blend the two together, Western and Indian fashion, or keep it just the same?
Yes. So with one question, I have a lot of questions in there. So I'll let you address in bits and parts. The thing which talk about the masculinity and femininity, the typical answer to that is clothes does not have a gender. We specify it to how it is supposed to be. So something for someone, it is someone comfortable in wearing something, it's completely that person's call. But talking about Indian culture is deeply rooted in the sense of picking clothes that suppose a lungi. It's just a piece of garment, open garment. How you're supposed to drape it is according to you. So when we talk about Western kind of clothing, there's a particular types of pants or jeans that would be just like that might be something for them. It will be find like very like, oh, something that's weird. People are wearing lungis or something. But Indian roots have been deeply rooted into this kind of clothing attires and this designs, and this textiles, in this form of they look it also in the form of art as well. So if at all people feel comfortable, and as well as I said, fashion is something which evolves. It's not something permanent at all. So as time will go, people will try to experiment. People will try to use their creative mind into it. So if people want to use it, they are open to it. People should experiment. So it's a wonderful idea to incorporate femininity and masculinity into form of art and display also as well. Yes, that's what I feel.
Thank you. Yes, you answered my question.
Yeah, Sherwin, coming to you, I wanted to ask you one question, wherein because of this huge expansion of modern art, what do you think that how is that affected the Indian painting industry?
Well, the thing is now recently modern art. I think it all depends on perspective. Like the way I look at modern art, I don't like it very much. Like you take a dot on the canvas or some few lines, people draw some random lines, and they say, okay, this painting now costs $1 million. But then you go back a few years back, 100 years back during Leonardo da Vinci's era, like he made the Mona Lisa. So that I consider that art. Same thing with Indian paintings back 100 years ago. I consider that art, not what we have as modern paintings, but there are people who will consider that art. But then again, differing opinions. But I believe the best course of action, like to especially promote Indian art, Indian paintings, is to blend the two together.
Typically, the way how fashionistas, the designers do, like they incorporate a Western style, the way of Indian outfits and make the Indo-Western. So you're talking like fashion, this painting industry or painters can also do something similar to that.
Yeah, definitely. You can include paint. You can include parts of your Indian painting in fashion as well. Like you take saris for example. with different styles, different type of textures. That also included in paintings. Like you have those pictures, like I mentioned, like pictures of epics. Like some paintings, they picture like they have they portray epics like battles and stuff like that. So many fashion designers include that also in their works, in their products. So that can also help promote Indian paintings and Indian art, and even by extension Indian culture as well. Like let's say you take an actress, okay, Indian actress, like let's say she goes, like I think it was Deepika Padukone. I can remember her only. She had gone to some event I think in the US, and she wore a nice sari and everything. So that in itself is promoting Indian culture.
Exactly, it does. It does. Talking to Klenifa, I wanted to ask you, Klenifa, your topic is so vibrant about theatre. How is, in this age of, as I say that, in the age of Netflix and chill, with this attitude, what do you see and where do you see theatre?
I think theatre still has a future, and the way you look at Goans, they're very staunch when it comes to theatre. And I know that theatre has a long way to go. But I think only if the newest generation will build their roots on theatre itself. So for this, I think we should always, try to organize symposiums or like small, meetings with the newer generation, talking about how and what is the role of theatre in our society. So I think that is how theatre will have a bright future ahead, even despite so many challenges.
Pretty good.
If that is
Uh,
yeah.
After, I actually have a question for you. How do you think globalization has affected Indian fashion?
Um, Globalization has affected fashions in terms of positive manner as well as a negative manner as well. Positive, when I say, I mean is this. When international designers approach Indian-based artisans and craftsmen, and they and take up the embroideries and the textiles back to their land, and they make it as beautiful garments, this will help in making a statement and on the international level that this is so and so piece of garment embroidery from India. Not just being us lauded in fame and name, but at the same time, these people, what will happen is the credit goes to entirely to the designer and how to the fashion, but it doesn't go to the Indian artisans who have given their hours of work in this process of doing this beautiful embroidery or making a garment. For that reason, what we're supposed to do is the Indian designers, Desi designers, are supposed to come up with techniques and innovations and give a lot of opportunity to Indian designers and Indian artisans, for that example, it has happened. It has started also. For specific example, for Lakme Fashion Week, there was these two designers who have made a collection on a Rajasthani piece of work, and they brought all the Rajasthani artisans who have worked on the fashion show in the collection, and they made at the end there was a celebration of this individual, and this individuals walked on the ramp. So that is where we are getting appreciation, we're getting name, we're getting fame, and also we are getting our due credit as well. Thank you, Natasha. I hope you're getting my answer to that.
Yes, Aftab. Thank you so much for your answer.
Natasha, I had a question for you.
Yes, Khalifa.
Since food aesthetics basically means, like eating with your eyes as such, so do you think that visual appearance of food actually has an impact on the way we, actually like the dish?
Yes, thank you, Khalifa, for your question. Yes, I do think that your eyes do matter, especially when it comes to your food. And the reason why I'm saying this, whenever you go to a restaurant, you need to make sure that you have an overall dining experience, meaning that it's not only your mouth and your nose that's engaged, you also want to make sure that you engage your eyes too. And a lot of the times, even when I talk about when I'm eating at home, suppose if the dish doesn't look visually appealing, it doesn't seem very nice to eat as such. But the thing is that if it looks very nice, very presentable, very colorful, and things like that, obviously you all the more feel like eating the dish. So I hope that I've answered your question, Khalifa.
Yes. Thank you.
We have time for just one more question. So, who would like to ask the last question for this session?
Rock, paper, scissors. Aftab, I've got one last question for you. It has to do with
Yes.
how now let's say Gucci store picks up some Indian fashion, okay, and starts promoting it. But let's say the store doesn't actually credit the what do you say the artist or the person who made the product, the Indian artist who made the product. Would you consider it necessarily a bad thing or a good thing? Because on one hand, they are using Indian art, but they're not crediting the person who made it. But it is helping in some way, like to promote Indian art and designs. So on what, how would
Uh,
you rate it?
That's exactly the same answer questions which Clinifa asked me about, Natasha asked me about globalization. This is the negative impact of globalization. People will come up and they will take up the good thing from us and they're going to present and they will make the money, they will get the fame, everything they will make it. But at the end of the day, the name will come as Gucci clothes, everything. But the thing, at the end, you will see that this particular garment is being made somewhere placed in some small village in Rajasthan or Gujarat of India. Nobody knows about it. So what is things are invisible, and the people who are have should be given due credits need to be given. Nobody can call up to us and say that we will take up your credits and we'll go away with it. No, we cannot do that. So for that reason, Indian designers and Indian media should be more active and proactive in this manner to get these things done. If someone is doing that, we need to catch hold of that person and make sure our India flies away everywhere.
And I have another question for you, just one small question. Okay, so you mentioned a lot about Indian fashion and everything, but nowadays, with hipster trends, people wanting to wear nice hip Western clothing, how would you promote it to, kids these days? Like new kids who play Fortnite, they don't like dressing up, Indian clothing. How would you promote Indian clothing to these kind of people, these kind of new generation?
Shabir, I can't hear you.
Sorry. So, how would you promote Indian fashion to the new generation of kids who don't like wearing Indian clothing?
uh, People who do not like wearing Indian clothes need to be shown this beautiful types of embroideries and designs. As I said it, in a formal sector, there's everything. There's only one white shirt, white pant, and black shirt in this. If you could include a white shirt and you can just do this beautiful embroideries,
Yeah.
that would be so amazing. People will love. People love color. People love design. So that is the only way we can make people, as Siddesh has mentioned it, has visual arts. People understand through our eyes. We see through our eyes first. So if we make our mind go and eyes go magic with it, then why not? That is the only way how we can go about it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I think we are now done with our last question for the day. So I would once again like to thank each and every one of y'all for this wonderful, wonderful panel discussion. And I would like to say that I have learned a lot. So I'm hoping our audience has also taken a lot from it as well. Thank you, one and all. Thank you for all of those who have tuned in to this particular panel discussion. And we hope to see all of y'all soon. Thank you and good day.
Hi, I would like to thank Dhempe College for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful conference that I believe is an excellent platform for the discussion of tradition to new emerging perspectives in the world of Indian art. A discussion that I think is extremely relevant and important in our current times. Um, what I will be sharing with you today, particularly, will follow the journey of Kathak dance because it has been my field of study and practice for several years now. So let's start from the beginning. The Natya Shastra is the oldest known surviving treatise on Indian dramaturgy. It was believed to be written in the 2nd century by sage Bharata Muni under the divine guidance of Lord Brahma. The Natya Shastra came into existence to instruct people about all aspects of Natya, which in Sanskrit means drama. It is a synthesis, Natya drama is a synthesis of art performances comprising of dance, music, and storytelling that were whose plots were mostly drawn from the Hindu epic mythological legends depicting archetypical values and ideals. According to Bharata, Natya Shastra has two fundamental primary functions. First is samskara, that is to educate through a depiction of ideals, purging of one's emotions, appropriation of behavior, which calls for one to be more compassionate. The second is manoranjana, which means to entertain, to basically relieve stress, experience joy, and appreciate aesthetic beauty. Kathak is one of India's 8 most recognized traditional forms of classical dance. These forms are collectively known in Sanskrit as Shastriya Nritya, precisely because they are based on those ancient treatises of which Natya Shastra stands on top. The Shastras set the basic principles for the establishment of different scholastic traditions of art knowledge that are subsequently consolidated to a chain of masters and disciples, what we know as Guru Shishya Parampara. They are deeply committed to the understanding of the depths of human existence and conveying a deep sense of religious devotion and spirituality, which is reflected in one's desire for bhakti. Bhakti means the desire for union with the Supreme. Kathak dance throughout its history has gone through intense explorations and experiments, but has yet remained true to the timeless tradition whose cardinal goal, as per the Natya Shastra, is called rasa. Rasa literally means taste and represents the goal of the audience that watches a play or a dance or music. It can be described as the purging and introspective savoring of flavors of each and every human emotions so as to enable compassionate and loving ways of interaction with other people. The English word that comes closest to truly translating the meaning of rasa is catharsis. So, now let's look at a typical structure of a Kathak performance, which is very specific. It begins with a vandana, which is like an invocation or an initiation. It involves the dancer coming onto the stage and paying respects to his or her gurus, to the musicians, and to the audience. Thereon, the performer goes on to dance a performance that that is in praise of gods, seeking their blessings and approval in some sense.
हरिचन्दनं सुविमलं कण्ठे च मुक्तावली गोपाल उन्मेषितो विजयते गोपाल चूड़ामणि.
Vandana is followed by Nritta, which refers particularly to pure dance. Usually, this section is void of any sort of storytelling or a narrative as such. In this section, the dancer performs pure rhythmic pieces that are marked by a wonderful combination of beats, whether fast or slow, soft or sharp. And this is displayed through quick spins, intricate hand movements, rhythmic footwork, and so on. The final part involved abhinaya piece, which means expression or acting. In this piece, there is basically a strong emphasis on the expressiveness of the performer, where the focus is to tell a story, which may or may not be based in the Hindu mythology. So what we just looked at is a typical structure of a traditional Kathak performance. Now, the common misconception woven around Indian classical dances is that they are usually thought of as having strict and rigid structures and formats that allow far too little space for innovation and change. The pursuance of classical dances, being a scholastic tradition, is undoubtedly meticulous and systematic, but it is far more dynamic in nature than we credit it to be. Classical dances have survived across centuries precisely because its relevancy is adaptable to the changing time, spaces, and societies. The story of Kathak is one such very good example of the adaptability in action. Kathak originates from the north of India and finds one of its earliest references around 3rd, 4th centuries. Katha kahe so Kathak is a Sanskrit saying that means one who tells a story is Kathak. Katha kahe so Kathak. Formed by singing and dancing, narratives that were taken from the Hindu mythology, which invariably celebrate the greatness and the righteousness of the gods. With the coming of the Bhakti movement in the 14th century, there was a widespread rejection of casteism and the development of traditions of personal devotion towards gods, of which the love story between Radha and Krishna. In the 16th century, the Mughal Empire established a stronghold in the north of India, where Kathak was prevailing. As a consequence, the encounter of these two great traditions enriched Kathak's devotional aspect. particularly with the interaction with the Islamic Sufism. On the other, dance performances meant almost exclusively for pure entertainment. The impact on Kathak was twofold. First, it affected the movement language in terms of the straight stance and also the quick spins. And second, it also affected in terms of the chosen themes by including stories that were based on quotidian life, such as stories of love, betrayal, dejection, loss, which were therefore relatively independent from religious concerns. During the British, classical dances was looked down upon. They were seen as low entertainment meant only for the seduction of the viewers. This misjudgment and misinterpretation went as far as to believe that the dances were a cover up for prostitution. As a consequence, the classical dances greatly suffered and their practice gravely declined. However, in the 20th century, following India's independence, the task of nation building invariably included the revival of India's ancient classical arts. For this revival, it was crucial that those reviving, those studying these ancient arts took into consideration not only the pre-colonial history of India, but the pre-Mughal history as well. But in case of Kathak, due to its dynamic history and varied influences, the mere reliance on traditional Shastras, the traditional ancient scriptures, was not enough, as it was possible in the case of Bharatnatyam. Eventually, Kathak found its new patronage in the middle and the upper class Indians, whether they were educated in the Western system or not, who played a key role in outdoing with the low reputation that Kathak held during the colonial times. All in all, Kathak, even today, remains faithfully anchored in the fundamental objectives and goals of all Indian arts in general, as per the ancient Sanskrit scriptures such as Natya Shastra and Abhinaya Darpana. The post colonial period saw much greater freedom of cultural exchange, broadening east west interactions, and the growth of globalization that invariably seeped into various areas of the society, including the arts. The word contemporary that encapsulates those global changes represents different things for different societies. In the West, contemporary dance refers to a very defined style of dancing that emerged out of the deconstruction and the reconstruction of various codified structures and, and expectations that were held by its forerunners, such as ballet, the Western classical dance, and modern dance. In case of India, the interaction of classical dances with the global contemporary dynamics is rather complex because it occurs at different levels. Therefore, I think it would be important at this point to say that we should make a distinction between Indian classical dances in the contemporary times and Indian contemporary dance. Being a dynamic tradition, the classical dances in contemporary times were able to welcome innovations and adapt themselves to the contemporary needs of a society without having to compromise their fundamental roots. For example, in contemporary times, Kathak may be seen as neoclassical due to changes in costumes, lighting, stagecraft, and so on. But that does not mean that Kathak is becoming something new. On the other hand, Indian contemporary dance may be viewed as a new developing movement language itself. It draws roots and inspiration from different Indian movement styles, such as classical dances, folk dances, martial arts, while also incorporating in a significant way the Western contemporary dance language. One of the earliest personalities which stands somehow the connecting dot between these two trends is Uday Shankar, sometimes referred to as the father of modern dance. He was exposed to Indian classical dance in his early years, but then went on to work with many renowned Western artists and also created and choreographed many ballets that were based on Hindu themes. Now, I will share with you a short part of Uday Shankar ji's movie called Kalpana that came out in 1948. I would like you to notice how, although his work is very Indian, there is a sort of Western abstract essence to it. Kathak to experience a contemporarization which can be seen in different aspects and degrees, which especially occurred during the late 20th century. By and large, there was no compromise on the basic goal that is prompting one to relish rasa, that is a joyful contemplation of one's emotions. But of course, there were developments and innovations in terms of themes, stagecraft, choreography, etc. Um, Although the movement language remained relatively close to the traditional Kathak movement language. Besides Hindu mythological stories, new themes emerged, such as environment and nature, feminism, gender roles, technology, and so on. It also incorporated new structural changes, such as allowing a performance to be made of just one lengthy piece, wherein all three aspects that we looked earlier, was Vandana, Nritta, and Abhinaya, somehow found expression. So now I will present you two clips that will in some way illustrate this idea. The first one we will look at is a piece called Chaturanga Ki Chaupal. It has been choreographed by Shama Bhate. Shama Bhate is a well-known Kathak dancer and choreographer based in Pune. She founded the dance academy Nadrup. She is well known for her extensive knowledge in experimentations with the tal and lai, which in lay terms are the rhythmic aspects of Kathak. Chaturang Ki Chaupal. Chaturang is an old, rare, intricate piece of Indian classical music. And the performance she's choreographed is somehow revolves around this. I would encourage you to notice the stage is organized differently from a typical traditional stage, whereas the movement, music, and costumes remain largely and more relatively traditional. video we will look at is called Bells by Sanyukta Sinha. She is a senior disciple of Kumudini Lakhya, who is a very well-known Kathak dance exponent based in Gujarat. Sanyukta Sinha is credited for her technical expertise and creative contemporary approach towards Kathak dance. As it was quoted on one of the websites, Bells, the name of the piece, captures the innate need of a woman to build, nurture, and foster connections. Therefore, I encourage you to notice the costumes, lighting, music, how they are not entirely traditional, yet the movement language is evidently traditionally Kathak. Now let's look at the second trend, and that is Indian contemporary dance. It is noteworthy that many Kathak artists digressed from strict traditionalism and took their experiments even further. The idea was to undertake a meticulous reconstruction of the traditional Indian movement language with an aim to explore its interactions with other movement styles, whether Western or non Western. Thus, a new language emerged that is not traditional but has a strong base in ancient and classic Indian movement arts. The first video that I would like to show you is a piece Interrupted, choreographed by Aditi Mangaldas. Aditi Mangaldas is also one of Kumudini Lakhya's senior disciples, but she also went on to study with Pandit Birju Maharaj ji as well. The piece you're going to see is an exploration, a rather unconventional exploration of the human body along with its fragilities, disintegration, resilience, vulnerability, inevitability, and renewal. I encourage you to notice that the dramaturgy, the stage setup, music, lighting, costumes are no longer very traditional. Even the movements have, although largely a Kathak base, they have also incorporated non-Kathak contemporary movement vocabulary within them. For example, the rolling on the floor or the massive jumps, etc. Moving on, I would like to talk about the internationally acclaimed dancer choreographer Akram Khan. Originally from Bangladesh, Akram Khan was born and brought up in the UK. His earliest dance trainings were in Kathak, but he was not limited by it. The piece I'm going to show you is Akram Khan's solo production called Desh, which means country. I'm sure you will notice that the piece has largely digressed from the typical Kathak performance, but there is still something about its dramaturgy that has its roots in the Indian subcontinent. Also, you will notice how it is technologically innovative.
সিঁথির সিঁদুর মুছে গেল হরিকাশে।
The last video I would like to share with you is a production by an institution that I've had the opportunity to be in close touch with as their diploma student, and that is Adhikari Center for Movement Arts. Founded by Mr. Jai Chandran Paladi, the institution is well known for its innovative and significant contribution to the Indian contemporary arts scene. It combines training in Indian classical arts and dance, such as Bharatanatyam, Kalaripayattu, yoga, chow, etc., and also contemporary dance techniques taught by international faculty. Articulary works along an underlying philosophy of traditional physical wisdom and innovation and technology. The piece I will share with you now is called Dhempe Vinyasa. It explores the metaphysical journeys caused by various forces that bring about changes in individuals and communities. In the video, you will notice that although from a traditional Indian dance, the movement language is deeply inspired by traditional Bharatanatyam and Kalaripayattu and others. The piece is also technologically innovative in the sense that it has used projections to enhance the dramaturgy. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that Kathak, throughout its history, has been experimented with extensively and intensively in varying gradations. Yet, despite these innumerable explorations, there is something deep that still makes it true to the ancient scholastic traditions. Thus, rasa, as an ultimate goal of all Indian arts, is timeless and universal. Despite the n number of developments, rasa can be seen as the binding bark Thank you so much for that introduction, Amy. And it's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, Tejaswini, I have a question for you, actually. You say you have been exposed to multiple forms of dance over the years, right? Why do you still say that Kathak is your first love? I mean, why do you still say why do you like Kathak the most, not your first love, sorry?
Oh wow. Okay. I love this question, Michelle. Thank you so much. Well, because it was my first point of journey, the first place where I started with dance, and I feel even today, no matter whatever styles I dance, I've studied Bharatanatyam, I've studied Kathak, but there, whenever I dance, then there is something in me that still looks like Kathak. Like the way I dance these styles is, I don't know, I feel like Kathak is like everything that I do. Even today when I dance contemporary, when I have to choreograph, it's impossible for me to avoid something that has a Kathak movement. It's just there. And I think it's it's more like a personal connection because it gave me a lot when I was starting out. And in fact, when I started dancing, when I was small, I had a lot of teachers that I didn't like so much. But then I kept going back, and I don't know why. At that point, I didn't know why. But Kathak kept me at a time when I was not sure so much of dance, and I was just starting out. Kathak kept me glued to this world of dance, and I think I will forever do it for that. So, it has to be my mother. Because her parents were different, her parents did not entirely encourage her to continue dancing, so she shifted to science. But I guess there was a part that always wanted to see, like the typical, like you want to see your dream being followed by your child, sort of something like that. But I think it started out there, and like I'm gonna answer to Rishal before. It was also my mom who always uh, pushed me that okay, just stick to it no matter what. And yeah, eventually I fell in love. So it has to be the first. And now there are many reasons why I still. First of all, I think the first point that will change this mindset that is just, it's just followed as something recreational would be that actually, I mean, one who is not very aware of this should be how much movement really affects our whole being, whether it is not just physical but our mental being also. Besides that, you like when you realize this, when you are more aware of this, you will realize that studying not just I'm not saying only classical dance, but dance in general gives you like a, there is a wholesome being to it. There's a wholesome feeling to it. And with dance, when you have to study dance, you of course have to. There's something that we do called as warm up in the beginning. So there is sort of like an exercise, you stretch yourself or you warm your body, which is also a sort of meditation, like a physical meditation, which again I would say that sort of enhances. And I think studies and science has shown that like a lot of schools that have involved movement arts in their academic studies, the students tend to perform better even academically, even in terms of their studies. And does that answer your question? And I would also like to yeah, I would also like to add that how we have sports in school, dance is actually nothing less than any other sport. It is just as taxing, it's just as tiring, and it's just as physical. Okay. So the earliest, although it has been there for centuries, the only evidence that we can have that it started existing is through the references of the scriptures. So the earliest reference to some dance called as Kathak was in about third, fourth century that we know, the earliest that we know. But eventually it evolved, and at that time it was seen as dancers. They were called Kathakars, who were known to sing and dance because Katha means story. So Kathak gets its name from that. Like I said in the video, Katha Kahesu Kathak. So one who tells the story is a Kathak. So the earliest references, and then Kathak evolved a lot. It changed a lot to become what it is today, and as we know it. Does that answer pretty much this question? I hope it does. Oh wow. Um, the other profession other than dancing would be writing, and there was one point where precisely why I did bachelor's in English literature, because I love writing. I do write also more leisurely, and I had a point.
So the question is, since you pursued English literature before movement arts, was it intended to be like that because of literature as a subject, or did you develop in movement arts during your graduation? Did you hear that?
Actually, yeah, actually, if I haven't gotten it right, you're asking me whether my interest in movement arts came through literature or was it the other way around?
Yes, something on those
Sorry.
lines.
Actually, no. Actually, I first got it. I started Kathak when I was the age of 6 or 7. I'm not sure, but I started with movement arts, and dance has always been a part of my life, always, all through my academic studies, and it was always there, ongoing. But it was not even today. I'm a person who I can't only dance. I love to read. I love to study about dance. So for me, um, theoretical studies of dance is also very, very important. And I think it should be at what I mean. And yeah, I guess they are interdependent. They help one another.
Can I ask a question, please? Akshata? Akshata? Yes. A very proud moment. a very proud moment for us at St. Xavier's College Department of English. Tejaswani, this is Miss Charlene, and all of you attendees and participants. A really nostalgic moment. Yes, to add to Tejaswani's answer to the question, yes, she was an exemplary English student. And I remember the first class I had with her as a first year student, showing such interest and such insightful analysis into whatever we did. I am so proud of your presentation today. Your vocal abilities and your linguistic expressions is superb, along with dance, which is also my first love. Congratulations, and also congratulations to Rochelle and the team at Dhempe for inviting such wonderful people to share stuff with us. Tejaswini, a private text maybe later. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This means so much. Really. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is. Yeah. Thank you so much for this, and I'm so glad that this conference is taking up this initiative, which is so important. And I'm really glad. Thank you so much for this. Congratulations.
A very good day to one and all. This 2-day online national conference for students on changing contexts and shaping roles, new perspectives on Indian art, literature, and aesthetics was organized by the Department of English at Dhempe College of Arts and Science. Day one of the conference began with the keynote address by Dr. Etienne Rasendran, a retired associate professor in English from St. Joseph's College Autonomous, Bangalore. Dr. Rasendran's address focused on the concept of Indian aesthetics. He took us on a journey on the Rasa Bhava theory through the Bhasha and folklore period, continued with colonial and post-colonial influences, through the impact of the nationalist movement, right up to modern times. It was like he created a panorama of the entire gamut of Indian aesthetics and concluded by saying that aesthetics is essentially how one sees the world from where one belongs. The first session of the conference saw 4 paper presentations, which were as follows. Number 1, Women's Bodies as Havens in One Woman and Singa River and the Palace by Divya R. from Christ, deemed to be University, Bangalore. The second presentation was on social media platforms and their influence, Stories and Reels by Sija Prabhu from MES College of Arts and Commerce, Goa. The third presentation for the day was titled From Dying in Sublimity to Living in Disorientation, a study of Devdas and Devdi by Shreya Jaiswal and Isha Mehrotra from Kanoria PG Mahavidyalay, Jaipur. The fourth presentation was titled Sons of Today, Burdened by Indian Television by Shannon Blinn D'Souza and Merlin Judy D'Souza from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa. Session 1 was followed by the first panel discussion on reviewing literary transformations. The panelists traced the transformations visible in literature over the ages. The focus was on modern technology-based genres as well as the ideas of free press and free speech. Session 2 began shortly after the panel discussion and had 3 paper presentations, which were The Ever-Evolving Enchanting Bollywood, a literary insight of the past and present of Indian cinema by Iola Pinto and Rachel Lobo from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa. The second paper was titled Feminine Divinity Through the Ages by Christina Madan Tedia from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and a paper on the concept of Bhadra Mahila antagonizing victims by Bhagyashree Vyasamacharya from Goethe University, Frankfurt, Germany, wrapped up day 1. Of biome conscious fashion and co-founder of Color Ashram. Miss Namrata walked the gathering through the ways and benefits of switching over to sustainable fashion in the face of climate change, which has made environmentally conscious behavior the need of the hour. This plenary session was followed by the last session of paper presentations, which had 3 presentations. The papers were 5 Great Indian Poems, An Unknown Perspective by Kalyani Prakash from Government College for Women, Thiruvananthapuram. The second paper was titled A Timeless Classic, The Composite of Mouth-Watering Flavors and Aromatic Spices of Incredible India by Jaden Noel Paez and Wilma Zita Fernandez from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa. And the last paper for the conference was titled When the Goan Streets Canvas Art by Vedangi Parsekar, Nikita Kole and Kezia Prabhudesai from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, Goa. The second panel discussion for the conference was on art and aesthetics. where the panelists discussed the continually changing trajectories of aesthetics in the traditional forms of various forms of art, like food, painting, fashion, drama, and advertising, right up to its modern adaptations. The final plenary session on Kathak dance and contemporary times, tradition, goals, and change was presented by Ms. Tejaswini Laundo. She took us through the shifts and spirals of Kathak as an art form. Thank you and good day.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to be part of this two-day conference, which is put together by the English Department of Dhempe College. I thank the principal and the entire team of English Department of the college, Clarinda, Rochelle, Akshata, Svetlana, and Anjali, Alia in the background, everybody who have taken, I'm absolutely sure for the last many days have taken a lot of what do you call focus on each of the details which go into having these sessions. And I'm so happy that they have chosen a contemporary topic like this one, new perspectives in literature, art, and aesthetics, very contemporary, and they have given a chance to all the students to explore the various dimensions that they can put together. That has given beauty to the entire session, and I'm really happy that they zeroed in on this particular topic. Then congratulations to all the participants. They have done immense justice to each of their perspectives and probably set the ball rolling for all the others, all the attendees, even the judges, to think about, after we leave this session and go, in the background, think about these various dimensions, because we are all involved in some creative process or the other during our regular daily lives. With that, congratulations to all the participants, and once again, thank you so much for having me over as one of the judges, along with Svetlana and Vivek. Very honored to have to be here with all of you and listen to so many sessions for the last couple of days. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, fellow members of the jury, members of the organizing committee, participants, and dear attendees. First of all, I would like to place on record my gratitude to the Department of English, Dhempe College of Arts and Science, for giving me this opportunity for being a member of the jury for this two-day online national conference for students. The experience was amazing as we got to listen to so many different presenters on so many diverse topics. It was a wonderful day. Both the days were really wonderful. The student presenters, all of them, definitely deserve a virtual applaud. Okay. Now, secondly, I would like to present a few pointers of feedback that could be kept in mind while interviewing future research projects. First one is importance of expressing your personal opinions in your presentation. I think that is really important. Your paper, your research paper needs to have your views, your perspectives based on research, without which I feel a research paper is incomplete. Second thing, your paper needs to have an argument on which the whole thing is focused. Your points support your argument. Your paper, a research paper, can never be just a compilation of facts. Okay. The third thing, and I think the most important thing for every researcher, is references. Okay, so we always know that we need to give references to the works, the articles that we have used in our presentation, in our research. In arts and humanities, we use MLA 8 format, that's the latest format of MLA, and that has been followed to the T. In fact, you can some people just give links at the end. That's not done. You can't just give links or URLs at the end of your presentation. What you need to do is also give in-text citations within your presentation. Whenever you refer to a quotation, you take a quotation or you use a unique idea, reference has to be given to that. Let's not forget images used in presentations. We all use lovely images to beautify our presentations, to give a virtual delight. However, those images need to be referred. You need to give credits. You need to put links, or you need to give the author, the owner of the picture, either below the image or even after your reference list. Okay, so please keep those things in mind. It will help you in your future research work. With that in mind, I would like to highlight the need for more such conferences and seminars for students, as it encourages them to take on research and refine their research skills. I would like to congratulate all the participants for doing a lovely job today. We really enjoyed your presentations today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good day to all. Ma'am, can you hear me? Mm. Firstly, I would thank the English department of Dhempe College for organizing such an amazing conference. First, it was national, then it became international with a student from Frankfurt. The experience for me personally, being in the first year and something new like to this, was just amazing and very insightful. because the amount of hours put into the research was tedious and a lot. So overall, amazing job, and I would like to thank y'all for organizing this, and can't wait for something more in these lines. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christina. I just wanted to actually continue with what Jaden said, that this was a really good initiative by the Department of English of Dhempe College, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for being there. And for all the participants, actually, we've all learned a lot from each other, to be completely honest, because there was a lot of variety in what the speakers were talking about. So thank you for this opportunity, everyone.
Good afternoon, all. And I was for the valedictory part now, and I have heard Jyoti, I have heard Svetlana, also the students who have given your feedback, and I'm really happy. It is my pleasure to speak on this virtual gathering in the valedictory session of the two-day online national conference. As I had already mentioned during the inaugural, that art and literature are integral part of our day-to-day life. But sometimes we tend to forget how important they are in our day-to-day routine. So conferences like these are required to make sure that we revisit various aspects of our life, our society, our history, and our intellectual heritage. This will help us in keeping our spirit of learning vital and also in adapting to the changing needs of the world. A diverse range of topics were covered in this conference, from rasa theory, bhasha, and aesthetic mentioned by our keynote speaker, to sustainable color and Kathak in contemporary times, spoken about by our resource persons in plenary sessions. But what we are particularly impressed by the perspective provided by our young student researchers. They have put forth some very important ideas on sustainability, transformations in art, on mental health and literature, on gender inequalities, and everyday struggle of people portrayed in artistic and literary forms. The young discussant from our college have also done a commendable job as panelists. Dear students, keep the spirit of inquiry alive at all the times. Always engage in good and ethical research. While working, always ask yourselves how your work can be benefiting the society at large. I wish all of you the very best in all your future endeavors. With this, I would like to conclude my address and thank everyone who attended this conference, and also congratulate all my English department teachers for having such a beautiful theme and a nice national conference. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much for your remarks and your
Okay, a very good day to everyone here. We've finally reached the last segment of our conference and what I presume to be the most awaited moment. Okay, so we're going to read out the winners, the names of the winners. So in third place, we actually have a tie. Okay, so in third place, we have.
Wait a minute, Rochelle. It can't be that easy, is it? Yes. Is there some excitement there? Which I'm sure there is, and virtually you cannot tell results to you. Yes, Rochelle. Please do the honors.
Okay, so in third place, yes, in third place, we actually have a tie. Any guesses as to who it could be? You feel free to use your own names.
And feel free to use the chat box.
Okay, so in the third place, we have Jaden Noel Pays and Wilma Zita Fernandez from St. Xavier's College, Goa.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
And like I said, there is a tie. So we also have in third place, we have Shreya Jaiswal and Isha Mehrotra from Kanoria PG Mahavidyalaya, Jaipur.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
In second place, we have yet another tie. So we can clearly say that the judges had a tough time deciding who should be victorious today. So in third place, we have Shannon Lynn D'Souza and Merlin Judy D'Souza from St. Xavier's College, Goa.
Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
And the tie for the second place is Bhagyashree Vesamacharya from Goethe University, Germany.
Congratulations.
These are our winners for second place. And ma'am, Clinda, over to you for the first place.
Well, any guesses? We're looking at the chat box. Well, the first place at this two-day online national conference goes to Miss Christina Dedier from St. Xavier's, Mumbai. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. We congratulate all the winners. In fact, as mentioned earlier, the highlight of this conference were the papers and the directions you took us, into. Very impressive. The judges had a tough time, and we as an audience also, I think you have thrown open some areas for research, even for us. So thank you so much for diligently working on your papers. Thank you so much. And it was amazing to have all of you. I thank the teachers also who have helped with the preparations and have guided you in your presentation. So big thank you to all of you. I thank your institutions for allowing you to be part of this conference as well. I will also take this opportunity to thank our principal for always encouraging us to give the very best of what we can. Thank you, madams. Congratulations.
I think, yes, the humble Akshata will not thank herself. So I will do the honors. Thank you, Akshata. As organizing secretary, you have done an amazing, meticulous job, and we are grateful from the department. Thank you, Akshata, and thank you to everybody.
Can you can you see me?
No, Jaden, we cannot.
Wait, I don't know what's wrong with my camera, dude.
Okay, everyone, one sec. Okay, big smiles. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.